Let's talk about something that's kind of a dirty secret in the construction industry, and something that holds a lot of people back. Construction is an industry that values knowing over learning. I mean, in general, especially in small residential companies, but it's a bigger problem than most people realize. So let's break this down into detail. First, I'll talk about the expectation versus reality. In construction, the expectation is that everyone already knows what they're doing. People get promoted based on what they know and what they've done. But here's the catch. There's very little investment in actually teaching and training people to know what they're doing. And so instead of learning, people are just expected to perform. And if they don't know something, well, they'll either figure it out the hard way or work extra hours to cover it up. Because admitting that they don't know could cost them future opportunities. So the real problem for an industry that relies so heavily on knowing and doing is there's surprisingly little focus on learning, education, and developing professional people. It's almost like everyone expects great results but doesn't want to invest in the people and the processes that are needed to create those results. And that's crazy. If we want better, more skilled workers, we need to train them, obviously. If we want stronger teams, we need to build them up, not just assume that they magically know what they're doing from day one. We need to be more human or humane about this. More empathy, more support, more willingness to actually help people grow instead of expecting them to just get it instantly. We need to have more respect for people. I'll talk more about that respect for people in another video. So the bigger picture, let's zoom out. How can an industry or even just a single company or person improve if everyone is expected to already know everything? The truth is, self-proclaimed experts are often terrible collaborators. In some cases, they barely even know what they're doing. Hiding behind one's own decades of experience and supposed expertise can be a kind of a defense mechanism. Defense against other people finding out that you don't really know it all. It's an ego problem, I suppose. The best, most collaborative environments are not full of all-knowing people. They're full of learners. And to be a learner, you need humility. Some of the best leaders I've ever met, they're the first ones to admit when they don't know something. And that's what really makes them great, because they're choosing growth over ego and learning over pretending. So it's time to rethink about how to improve construction culture. Less pressure to know it all and more focus on learning together. Collaboration, that's how we build not just better projects, but better companies and a better industry. So I'm going to talk a little more specifically about how construction companies can implement better training. All right, so we've talked about the problem, spilled the tea, so to speak, being construction values knowing over learning, and that's holding the industry back. So how do we fix it? Let's break down some real actionable ways companies can build a stronger, smarter workforce. Oh, I hear a hummingbird above me. First of all, structured onboarding programs. Most construction jobs throw people straight into the deep end, but a solid onboarding process sets new hires up for success. Instead of just handing them a hard hat and expecting them to figure it out, companies should pair them with mentors or experienced workers for hands-on learning, provide clear training manuals or digital resources tailored to their role, and also conduct safety and skills assessments frequently to see where extra training is needed. Too often, this is just a once a year kind of thing that you do on an annual review. But a well-structured onboarding program that continues more frequently than that can reduce mistakes, boost confidence, and improve retention. There's a lot of companies that don't even keep people for a year. Second big point here is to, like I already mentioned a little bit, is to invest in continuous training. and not just the minimal compliance regulations for safety. Most construction training revolves around safety compliance, which is important, but what about other technical skills development and soft skills as well, which is something that I talked about in a previous video on the leadership versus management debate. Companies should offer workshops on new techniques, materials, or technologies. These don't always have to be internal, taught by people in the company, but a lot of times you can get other representatives from other suppliers, vendors, equipment dealers, and so on to come and to teach your company. Oftentimes, these industry experts are willing to come in for hands-on demonstrations, sometimes for free. Something else you can do is to set up periodic, perhaps monthly, lunch and learn sessions where experts teach workers and share their knowledge. Training shouldn't just stop after onboarding. It should be part of the company's culture of continuous improvement. Third big point here, we can leverage technology for smarter learning. Technology is making it easier and cheaper to train workers. The capabilities and the costs of these things are improving a lot. The capabilities are going up and the costs are going down. Companies can use VR and AR simulations, that's virtual reality and augmented reality, to train workers on equipment before they even get on a job site. I think there's a lot of great videos out there, but the VR and AR is another step, the next level. I think that over the next few years is going to improve a lot. Something else you can do is you can offer mobile learning apps so employees can train at their own pace. Oftentimes you have downtime on a job or on the commute to and from the job. So if someone has their phone, their iPad, whatever it is, their device, they can utilize that. As mentioned previously, video tutorials and online courses for specialized skills. There are many of these available, perhaps from your local jurisdictions, your state, your vendors, your suppliers. There are just countless resources available online, many of them free or low cost. And so these can help to make training accessible, engaging, and cost-effective. The fourth big point here is to create a culture where asking questions is encouraged. One of the biggest problems in construction is that workers fear looking incompetent if they ask questions. That mindset needs to change. Leaders and supervisors should normalize asking for help by openly admitting when they don't know something. It should reward curiosity and initiative. If someone asks a question, don't just say, hey, that's a stupid question. How don't you know that, dumbass? But encourage the team discussions and knowledge sharing to break up the just figure it out culture. A team that asks questions is a team that grows. The fifth big point here is leadership development for foremen and managers. I talked a little bit about this in a previous video, continuing that here. Good leaders don't just give orders, they coach, mentor, and guide. Construction companies should train foremen and supervisors on how to teach and develop their teams, should provide leadership courses focused on communication, conflict resolution, motivation, and other soft skills that are needed for leadership, and also encourage leaders to set training goals for their teams, not just production goals. When leadership is supportive and engaged, workers feel more valued and more willing to learn. One of the increasing problems the construction industry has is attrition. People leaving. Some companies, lose a lot of employees, most especially companies that don't provide opportunities for advancement. That is the number one reason that people give for why they quit a company. And as the older generation, I'm becoming one of them, is retiring, the younger generation is showing less interest in construction. The most recent statistics I've seen, and I think this is for the U.S., the industry in general, is that for every 5 people that retire from the construction industry, 1 new person is coming in. So this is not sustainable. We need to make better use of the remaining old people, and I'm, again, becoming one of them. But I need to myself also get better at teaching and training the younger people more effectively. I do quite a bit of that. In fact, some companies hire me. You're welcome to shoot me a message if you want to do so. And by doing so, we can improve the industry, or at least you can make your own company more attractive and make the labor shortage someone else's problem. There are, perhaps in aggregate, for the whole industry, not enough people. But if they're not wanting to work for you, that's probably a problem with you personally as a leader of your company, and probably a bigger problem with the culture that your company has. Because there are people working. They're working for somebody else. The sixth big issue that I want to raise here is to make training a path to promotion, not just experience. Previously, and right now, I think promotions in construction are mostly based on experience and tenure, how long a person has been at a company. And instead, companies should create a clear roadmap to lay out how employees can see that their training will lead to career advancement. You can offer certifications and also offer incentives for learning new skills. You can pay people to get trained. I know that's not always an easy decision, but it might be necessary. Other companies are doing it. You can also promote based on competency and leadership potential, not just on years in the field. In fact, and this is a disappointing thing, that when you work in the field and work with somebody long enough, you realize sometimes that someone who has decades of experience and maybe in a position of manager, a position of leadership, sometimes is not even very good at their job. It's quite disappointing, and it drives a lot of people away. We can make learning an investment in a future career, not just a compliance box to check. Some final thoughts here. If construction companies want better workers, better projects, and better retention, they need to prioritize training and learning. The best teams, as I mentioned before, are not the ones who know it all. They're the ones who keep learning, keep improving, and working together. So let's shift construction culture from just knowing to actively learning and teaching. And that's how we can build a stronger industry, both literally and figuratively. I'd like to get some feedback from you. What do you think? Have you seen good or bad or even non-existent training programs in construction? I've experienced all of those myself. Sometimes even a good company can have a bad time and drop the ball for a while. But I think in general there's quite a difference between the lowest and the highest companies. It's not marginal, incremental, it's exponential. The difference is really amazing. If you're a worker who's working at a company that does not train you, keep applying. Find a better company. They're out there. And maybe invest in your own training. There's a lot of great materials for free on the internet. Put in a few minutes a day, an hour or two a week. You can make a lot of progress yourself, and you can make yourself a more attractive candidate to better companies. I'd like to chat about it some more. If you drop a comment below, let me know if this was helpful. If you'd hit the like button, subscribe for some more insights. Say, until next time, onward and upward. Oh yeah, and I have a lot more resources on my website, colechestnut.com. I put more there pretty frequently, so if you want to read more about this topic and others, have a look in the description or the comments below. Thanks.